Mm.
And I remember at one of those events, I met this gentleman who he does not only commercial multifamily, but we're talking about these big buildings and shopping centers, malls and so forth. And I remember saying to him, well, I just want to buy a quad and I'm good. And he said, you're thinking too small.
Mm.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're thinking way too small.
Right.
He said, your first deal should be at least 20 units. And I said, but how am I going to do that? He's like, that's the purpose of you being part of this program. You need to get out of your own way and start meeting people who are doing these deals and see how you can serve, right, on their team. How can you serve? What are the skills that you have? Learn your skill set and bring your service to others, because when you are serving other people, you're not only learning, right? You're not only providing something great to them, but you're also providing something great to you.
You are now listening to the Your First Steps podcast. It's great to talk about $1 million dreams, but where do we start? How do we get there? Listen up as you hear directly from real estate industry leaders on how they reach success in their fields. And most importantly, what were their first steps? Let's get this party started. Here's your host, Eli the Real Estate Guy.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Your First Steps podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest. We have someone that is a multifamily investor, an author, and most importantly, a mom. Today, we have Miss Slandy Noel. Slandy, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Eli?
I am doing great. I'm excited to do this episode because I went to, of course, the Rock Cleaf event that happened a few weeks ago, and you were doing your presentation on a deal that you've done. And I just had to, say something to you and just really get an understanding of what your process was with everything. So that's how I came about meeting you. But there's a lot of things we're going to cover, and I'll make sure I get it done tight for you. So for the people that don't know who you are, I'll go ahead and give a quick introduction of yourself.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate that. So my name is Slandy Noel. You just mentioned. I was born and raised in Haiti. And for many
Represent.
people who don't know anything about Haiti, understand that it's the first Black nation to get its independence. So, I was born and raised there. I was 15 years old when my mother moved me and my whole family up to Massachusetts, in Boston, to be exact. So I grew up, most of my younger years spent in Boston. I went to college there as well. I majored in biology and political science. And I spent 14 years of my life working as an immunochemist, helping cancer patients and so forth, and, running testing. And about 5 years ago, I started my own coaching business, helping women, divorced mothers, to redefine their identity and becoming financially independent. And one of the reasons why I even geared towards that is because I myself went to a divorce 8 years ago, and I had 2 young children. And I had to really learn the ropes. I really had to step out of my own way and learn how to manage my finances and how to take care of my children and have a balanced life. And it was quite challenging. But it kind of like propelled me into going into the space that I'm in right now, where now I'm able to help single mothers and divorced mothers to take charge of their lives and their finances, which is very, very important.
Awesome. Good deal. And so now you mentioned your childhood, and of course, I always say represent whenever I hear anything Haiti. I always got to show some love. And so starting from your childhood, take me back to what it was like growing up as a child and what like a day-to-day looked like for you, and then kind of take me to what brought you into multifamily investing.
Oh my goodness. Growing up for me in Haiti was quite challenging. The reason being is because my mother left us in Haiti. I'm the oldest of 6, and I was not even 6 years old yet when my mother left Haiti. My sister was almost 5, my brother was turning 4, and then the other one was 3, and my mother was pregnant with the 5th child at that point. She
Yeah.
was quite young.
Sorry to interrupt. What part of Haiti are you from?
I was born and raised in Port-au-Prince.
Port-au-Prince. Okay, got you. My folks are from Lago Nav.
okay. That's
Gotcha.
too far, a little bit outside of
Exactly. Yeah,
Port-au-Prince.
sorry. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead. Mhm.
But leaving us behind, being so young with my dad was not really hands-on, but he was very strict. And education was very important for him. And he wanted to make sure that we had a good education, but he was extremely strict and he was rarely around. So I became the caretaker of my brothers and sisters. And it was quite challenging. I mean, imagine being 6 years old and now you're responsible for 3, 4, and 5-year-old, right?
Right.
I learned to cook, I learned to clean, and we are not talking about like, laundry, cleaning the way that Americans do it. No. We're talking about using your hands to scrub.
Man.
So it was,
Love it.
I wouldn't call it an easy childhood. However, it basically shaped me into the person that I am today, right? I learned to be extremely responsible. I learned to organize. I learned that if I want something out of life, I have to work hard for it.
Right.
And that's not something I personally wanted for my children in a way. Like, yes, you want them to know that they have to earn their way to life, but I don't necessarily want them to struggle like I struggled. So of course, when I moved to the States, I was 15 years old. I didn't know, that frankly, given that I didn't speak English, I didn't think I was going to be able to learn the language soon enough to go to college. However, my mother, who worked very hard, I mean, that woman worked 2, 3 jobs to make sure that all of her children were cared for, right? So, and she was the one who brought us to the States. She always said, it doesn't matter if you speak the language or not. If you focus on your education, you will learn English and you'll be able to go to college.
Right.
And it was like surreal to me. I mean, going to school in Boston, where it's predominantly white in some way, with the school I went to, I didn't speak the language. I was afraid to even open my mouth.
Wait, I'm sorry. 1 second. I just made the connection. So you came to America when you were 15.
Yes.
And you didn't speak English.
No.
And that's interesting. Okay. So the reason why it's interesting is because I've interviewed some people, and I know some people that when they came to America, they were younger. So they were like 6 or whatever. And like there's a guy that I know from back in Orlando. He came to America around that time, and his thing was he learned how to speak English by watching things like Barney or just watching TV and stuff like that. So how did you learn how to speak English at that age? Because I'm just like, wait, hold on. Like as soon as you kept saying, okay, wait, the college you didn't speak language, wait, well, hold on. That's a high age to come in and then really grasp it. So how did you learn English?
Well, I had some amazing ESL teachers. I had 2 amazing teachers who were, they noticed that me and my sister were very, very intelligent. And they noticed how well we did in math and science. And they truly pushed us forward and helped us to assimilate in the culture. And to tell the truth, when I first moved to the States, my mother was living in the project. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with the project here in the States. So imagine leaving Haiti, where we were more concerned. I was more concerned about our safety because Haiti continuously have coup d'etat, right? Like you having overthrown of the government. When I moved to the States, there were still some issues, like the Capitol was shut down, it was 1998. And of course, moving to the States, I'm thinking everybody's wealthy. We're going to live in this very beautiful mansion and so forth. And when we moved to the States, we're living in the project.
Right.
Yes. And however, my mother being the person that she is, she knew, like she learned of the different activities, the different programs they had in the city of Boston. And even the project where we're living in Rosendale, in Massachusetts, there was this lady who was this amazing like youth coordinator. She had all these amazing programs like tutoring and mentorship and really helping you get into certain programs in the city. So when I started attending there with my ESL teacher, my mother, who is Catholic, but I'm non-denominational, she still found a church for us to go to, right? It was this Haitian pastor who took us under his wings and helped us. So we had a lot of support, a lot of people helping us to assimilate into the culture, right? And I remember many of my teachers were like, you will be able to go to college. I know, like right now, you don't speak the language. And it's interesting. And of course, my mother always said, you're going to learn the language. Don't worry. I'll give you guys 6 months to a year. You're going to learn it. And she was correct. Within a year, I was able to conversate and have conversations, right, with just about anybody.
Right.
So
right.
I knew in a matter of 3 years, I will be ready to go to college.
Nice.
And lo and behold, I did get into college. I had a full right to attend Regis College, private school,
Nice.
4-year scholarship to attend 3 years after moving to the States.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm sorry I cut you out. It was just once you gave that connection, I was just like, hold on, I got to get the story behind that. So you said you went to college and assimilating to that lifestyle. So you can kind of continue from there.
Yes. So of course, for me, being able to get into school, and it really opened my horizon, right? I mean, I was coming from a background where I was very sheltered because my parents are very strict. It's not unusual for Caribbean parents to be very strict.
Exactly.
You don't go out. You just go to church, you go to school. And of course, if you have a job, you go to work.
Right.
Pretty much
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So for me, I knew I wanted something different. So my parents wanted me to study biology. So I did that, right? I got my biology degree. And in fact, I even went on and did my master's in biology as well, because that's what my parents wanted. They wanted me to go to medical school. Of course, in our culture, it's either you're a doctor, you are an attorney, or you're an engineer.
Exactly.
Like there's no other career path for you to gear towards. But
Right.
for me, I've always felt like God, there's a higher calling to my life, right? I've wanted to do something different, but I didn't want to disobey my parents. So I went on to do what they asked of me, but I got married right after college. So of course, after having dated my ex-husband, so the minute I graduated, I got married right away. And my ex-husband supported me even when I wanted to get my master's. He was like, whatever you want to do, you're an adult now. You don't have to follow the path that your parents lay out for you. You can make your own decision. And I remember telling him, it's easy for you to say, it's not that easy for me. I don't
You don't got to answer to him.
I don't have to answer to these to my parents.
Right.
But he was very supportive in a way. And in fact, I went on to go to law school. And that's a story for another day.
Yeah, gotcha.
Years later, after having my first child at 25, couple of years later, I applied to law school, got into law school. And I spent 2 years in law school and was put on academic probation.
Oh, man.
Yes, because I was spending so much day at that point. My marriage was failing. We were having a lot of issues, and I was already pregnant with my second child. And when they put me on academic probation, I withdrew. I did not continue. I did not get my college degree. My law degree at that point. I was too focused on trying to save my marriage, which, by the way, I did not save. I still ended up getting divorced.
Gotcha. Right.
So, of course, my parents want me to go back. I haven't even thought of going back to law school because all of these experiences have shaped me into getting me into multifamily investing.
Gotcha.
You see, everything that happened in my life, it happened for a reason. Because while I was going through my divorce, I ended up getting diagnosed with kidney disease. I had just given birth to my daughter. And at that point, I was losing a lot of protein in my urine. And I went to see my doctor, and I got the news that I was going to have to go to treatment for kidney disease. And at that point, I remember thinking, wait a minute, there's only so much you can take as a person, right? You go into a divorce. I have 2 young children, a newborn baby. I was nursing her, dealing with postpartum depression. And at that point, I found out I was diagnosed with kidney disease. But I will tell you, today, it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me.
Why is that?
The reason why is because the minute I was diagnosed, and I spent 2 years in deep depression, I didn't believe that I was going to pull through because I was, mentally, I was not there. But I remember looking at my children saying, I grew up without a mother. I don't want them to grow up without a mother. If God can pull me out of the position that I'm in right now. And I remember praying, all the time. And Psalm 23 was like literally my prayer, like, the Lord is my shepherd. And it really guided me. And I remember saying, God, if you pull me out of this, I'm going to do, something great with my life. I'm not going to be working just to work, just to get a great paycheck, because I was making, 6 figures, at that point, but I was in a field that was not fulfilling me. But by being diagnosed with a chronic illness, it propelled me into the path that I needed to be. And that path was really getting a hold of my life and serving others. And by trying my best to serve others, I kind of fall into the financial in the, multifamily space.
Yeah. So what was that first introduction to that? So I know you want to help people and you're getting a hold of your life. What was that introduction of real estate to you?
Yes. So one of my sisters who happened to be an entrepreneur, I was constantly talking to her. I was telling her all the time, like, okay, I want to be able to maximize my income, and I want to be able to earn passive income. And I was having that conversation with her once, and I said to her, I have a property, because I had a property in Boston at the time. I had moved out of the state of Boston, moved to Georgia. I was renting that property. And I said to my sister, I'm just going to sell that property. My parents didn't want me to, but I mentioned it to her. She was like, I think you should. And of course, at that point, I put the property in the market. And that was during COVID, by the way. It was 2020. And once I put the property in the market, I was like, okay, so when I got the proceed from the sale, I wanted to put it in 529 for my children. I was like, okay, I'm going to split it, put it in 529. And when the children are ready to go to college, they'll be able to use that money to pay the first 2-3 years of their education. However, my sister said to me, well, maybe you should do something else with it. Maybe you should be investing it. And she was going to this event. It was multifamily investing. I've never heard of multifamily investing. That was news to me. And she was like, oh, I'm going to go to this event, and this week. And I said, when is it? She said, this weekend. And I said, okay, I'm coming with you. She's like, no, you don't understand. Who's going to take care of the kids? I said, don't worry about it. I called my ex-husband. I said, you need to have the children. I'm going to Orlando for this event. He was like, oh, okay, no problem. Went to this event and met Rod. But at that event, something kind of, it just didn't make any sense to me when I started hearing people saying they were buying building together. And I was like, how were you guys trusting these individuals and partnering with individuals?
Right.
And, that was the first time I heard the word syndication. And I'm a people person. I love getting to know people. I love making friends, right? Because at that point, I was already working on my coaching business, helping mothers. And I was like, then maybe that's why God wanted me to be here. And at that point, the minute I met Rod, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn more about this space. Because I noticed it was highly populated by white male. There were barely any minorities and a couple of women. And I was like, well, I'm going to be one of these women in that space.
There you go. Gotcha. I love it. So that was your introduction to it. And you explained what that feeling was. So once you got in there and you understood that it was possible to invest in real estate by grouping together and just kind of getting together with syndications, what was your first step after that? Like once you figured that out, what was your very next move?
So the first thing I did was joining Rod's Warrior program. So of course, when I started hearing him talking about the Warrior program, I'm like, Warrior, like, what is that? And at that point, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in. If I'm going to college, right, I'm one of those people who's always willing to learn. I'm always reading. I love to read. I'm always learning something new. And self-development is so important to me. Personal development is so important to me. So I decided to just join his program because I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it the correct way. I want to do it effectively, right? And I want to be able to learn it in a way where I can teach others. And by getting like my own personal coach, by also getting a high performance coach, it really helped me to learn underwriting, which is something that you need to know if you are going to do syndication. And it helped me learning how to to handle asset management. And it helps me with due diligence. And not only that, I also learned how to network with other individuals who are really at a much higher level than I was, because I didn't know anything about multifamily, but I was meeting these individuals who had done 300 doors, 500 doors, 1,000, and some people even the 10,000 doors. And I remember at one of those events, I met this gentleman who he does not only commercial multifamily, but we're talking about these big buildings and shopping centers, malls and so forth. And I remember saying to him, well, I just want to buy a quad and I'm good. And he said, you're thinking too small. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're thinking way too small.
Right.
He said, your first deal should be at least 20 units. And I said, but how am I going to do that? He's like, that's the purpose of you being part of this program. You need to get out of your own way and start meeting people who are doing these deals and see how you can serve, right, on their team. How can you serve? What are the skills that you have? Learn your skill sets and bring your service to others. Because when you are serving other people, you're not only learning, right? You're not only providing something great to them, but you're also providing something great to you. You see? And when he said that, I was like, okay, from now on, I'm not going to worry about doing a duplex or a quad.
Right.
I'm going to find out who can help me take down a 40 unit, a 60 unit, 100 unit.
I love it. I love it. Okay, got it. So the way that the program is structured, because I'm not a warrior at the moment, but is it so you're saying that you have a personal coach, a high performance, what are the levels of help that you get within this type of program? What does it look like on the inside?
I actually signed up for the highest program. So that's one of the reasons why I have a high performance coach, as well as a coach helping me with my underwriting and so forth. So every week, of course, you have training. So technically, if you're part of that program, you will have to spend anywhere between 8 to 12 hours of training a week. It's mandatory. And if you're falling behind, you're going to have a lot more work to do than, the next week. They meet every week. And of course, the training is mostly about underwriting and how to underwrite a deal. Because when you want to acquire an asset, 40 unit, you need to know what the NOI is. You need to know the OPEX. You need to do the CAPEX. So these were new to me. They were new terms. And I realized that if I don't learn these correctly, I can't really effectively bring a deal to someone. I need to know my numbers. If I don't know my numbers, how would anyone come and trust me with their money, right? Like if you're doing syndication, they're not going to trust you. And of course, could I have learned it by doing it on my own? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm one of those people who believe, personally, I believe the less time it takes me to learn something, the better. Because time is so valuable. I want to be able to learn something in a year as opposed to having it taking me 3, 4, 5 years to learn it. And I want to learn from people who have made mistakes, right? Like they've been there, done that. And when I joined Rod's, program, I was like, okay, so these individuals have done it all, right? They have, and of course you hear all the horrible stories, they've lost funds and so forth. So I learned at a much faster rate than they did. And I learned what to avoid, what are the pitfalls, Right. So that to me was beneficial. It was worth every penny.
Gotcha. Now, when you're talking about just going all in and the dedication that it takes to actually be a part of this program, something that you spoke about earlier was learning how to balance your life. So single mom, you have these kids and you have a job, and now you're going into multifamily. How did you manage to balance all of that and still be successful with that?
That's a wonderful question. The truth is, and I hope your listeners, I think your listeners will understand what I'm about to say. It's very hard to balance in life. You have to learn to pick and choose. You really do. It's really, when I hear people say, oh, the work-life balance and so forth, they're lying to themselves. They really are. At some point, something is going to suffer. right? Because especially me being a single mom, I'm the one who has to provide financially for my children. I'm the one who has to take them to the activities. I'm the one who have to, and I have to still find time to take care of me. Over the years, especially the past 3 years, is during COVID, I learned that I have to put my health first. Especially during COVID, I was going through treatment.
Mhm.
I've been in and out of remission of the past 8 years, like 4 times.
Mhm.
So as I'm going to treatment, I knew first my priority is my health. Let's make sure that I put my health first. I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking care of my meds. I'm making sure I'm seeing my doctors regularly, and then my children. And with my children, is spending time with them and quality time. Because at some point, I realized that I was so busy doing work, especially investing in multifamily. So every deal that's coming your way, you're thinking, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. But it takes a lot of time. So a year and a half ago, I had to walk away from my full-time W-2.
Mm.
Leaving, of course, when I renewed my contract, many of my colleagues were like, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. But I realized that for me, it was worth it
Right.
because at that point, I was coaching women in my own coaching space,
Mhm.
but I had more flexibility with time. And I was
Gotcha.
already earning a passive income from investing. Remember I said when I sold my property, I used that cash and started investing as an LP, a limited partner.
Mm.
And that was already giving me some passive income. And that kind of built up my courage, my strength to say, okay, this is how much I need monthly. So I was very strict with my budget.
Mhm.
Um, I'm one of those people who enjoy traveling a lot. I can
Mhm.
do 3, 4, international trips a year, and then
Right.
local trips and so forth with my children. But I learned to cut down on that and focus on, okay, from the passive income that I'm receiving, as well as building my coaching business to help supplement, you know, um, and that kind of gave me the flexibility I needed. And it was a tough decision to make because when
Yeah.
you are a single parent and you have one income in the home, if you're not working, how do you pay your mortgage? How do you pay your car note? How do you buy food to make sure? So I had to plan it. I had to really be strategic
Mhm.
and plan it accordingly. I knew exactly how much I needed to be able to walk away from my W-2. And it
Gotcha.
varies, right?
Mhm.
Everyone has different. Some people need 10,000 a month. Some people need 20 a month. Some
Mhm.
people need 30 a month. But I knew what that number was for me before I was
Mhm.
able to get that courage to walk away.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so was it more so of you were getting monthly uh passive income, or is it a quarterly, or like what was the payment structure on the funds that you're receiving to feel comfortable enough to be like, all right, I at least know this is coming in?
Yes. So it's quarterly. So when you
Okay.
invest as an LP, a limited partner is quarterly. But when you do a deal, when you are a GP on the deal, when you first going in and acquiring the asset, you charge anywhere between 2 to 5% acquisition fee,
Right.
right? So I knew if I did 4 deals a year with certain amount of acquisition fee, plus my passive income that was coming in every 3 months, that I knew I could balance my checkbook to make sure that I don't go over that.
Got
Right.
it. Got it.
It
Got
is
it.
so important because because we so used to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, right? So we may have our budget where we're budgeting it every 2 weeks or every month. But for me, I do it quarterly.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, this is how much it costs for my daughter's gymnastic training. This is how much it costs for my son's martial arts training. This is how, so I knew every single penny, how much, from my food to,
Mhm.
everything that we needed and how much I needed to bring in and
Gotcha.
how much I needed to really increase my income coming in. Because as you know, when you are an entrepreneur, as coaching, as you're aware as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
it varies, right? So I knew I needed about 6 clients a month
Mhm.
to substitute from my passive income as well as my clients and so forth.
Gotcha, gotcha. I love it. And so now speaking about your clients and the divorce mom empowerment coaching program that you have. So explain what is that for the people and who would it benefit?
So it benefits single mothers, specifically divorced mothers, because for me, part of my program is helping women, single or divorced mothers to redefine their identity, becoming great co-parent, becoming financially independent, which is so, so important. And of course, live a more balanced, holistic life. I find that oftentimes after divorce, when you are married, your identity lies in you being a wife, right? Because you are a wife, and most people have two incomes coming in the home when they're married. So it's your income as well as your husband's income. But when you're divorced, you have to shift your mindset because you are no longer married. You no longer have that two income. And statistically speaking, women after divorce they lose about 60% of their income after divorce, right? So if you, the mother, most women tend to have physical custody of the children. So all of your children's care falls on your shoulders. Yes, you may receive child support. A lot of people do, but the average child support is $260 a month per child.
Wow.
So
Jeez, okay.
So if you're receiving an average $260 a month, how do you take care of your children?
Right, right.
So my goal is really helping women to maximize their income, because a lot of people have so many skills that they are not tapping into. I have one of my clients who now does voiceover work. But before we started working together, she was just like, she's a nurse. She was a nurse. And she's like, oh, well, I bring this amount of income. And I said, okay, if you want to keep up with the lifestyle that you used to, you need to really increase your income. Never mind cutting costs. Yes, it's great. You have to cut costs in some areas, but you still want to be able to live in the same neighborhood that you are living. You still want to make sure that the children are still going to a great school area. So you want to stay in those areas? Great. How do we maximize your income? So when I started hearing, the first time I talked to her, I was like, wow, this woman has an amazing voice. And now she works, like she reads books and she does voiceover work, which help really increase her income, right? Gotcha. So oftentimes we have these skills, but we don't even think about them. Or sometimes we may have some funds that's just sitting there instead of putting that fund to work for us, putting it in a market, putting it in a deal, and where you getting some investments, you earning some passive income, which can help by supplementing your income.
Now, it's interesting that you bring up voice work. And because to me, that was kind of like a random thing that came up when you're talking about your program. So is this something that as you're dealing with your clients, you have like a discovery period of like, okay, let's figure out what are you good at? What's your likes, dislikes? And then from there, you figure out, okay, well, based off of this and off of my observation, here's a list of things that you may want to look into. Is that kind of how you, interesting.
That is correct. In fact, I've had clients who haven't had a raise in 3, 4, 5 years. And of course, when I sit down with them, we discuss, okay, why is it that you still haven't had a raise? So I will sit down with them and have them list all of the skills and everything they have brought into the space that they're in, their workspace. And now they're able to go to their boss and said, okay, I've been able to do this and this and that. These are the services that I provide here, right? And how can I get a raise from what I'm doing here? Because oftentimes women feel intimidated to ask for what they want. We feel intimidated when it comes to asking for the income that we want, even though we may have the skills. We don't think that we are good enough. When in reality, if you don't speak up, if you don't ask for what you want, you're not going to get it.
Right.
I mean, it's not someone else's responsibility. It's not their job to come to you and say, oh, you know what? You've been working so hard.
Right.
I think you deserve this.
Right.
Some boss do it, but most of them, they don't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you are willing to do the work for $40 an hour, what it's really worth 50, and then you do it for 40, they're like, oh, okay. I mean,
exactly.
We're okay with it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. And so something that you said earlier, because I know the deal that we'll talk about is, I think it's in the Carolinas, either North or South Carolina, the one that you did it. Which one was it? North or South Carolina?
It's actually South Carolina, Columbia.
South Carolina. Gotcha. And so you was living in Massachusetts, but you moved to Georgia. So do you live in the Carolinas now, or how did that deal come about?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. Interestingly enough, I I don't only invest here in Georgia. I invest in North Carolina, South Carolina, and as well as Florida. So all around the Southeast area, I invest. I will not do a blue state. I'm sorry. There's really nothing about New York, Massachusetts that's appealing to me.
Right, right.
You know, but anywhere between from Georgia all the way down to the Florida coast works for me. And I normally, like, me and my partners, when we're looking for deals anywhere between 20 units all the way up to 100 units. So, and that 66 unit deal, that asset came to us. We didn't even go looking for it. We didn't go look for it. Two gentlemen had found this deal. They had put down that a little bit over $200,000 of hard money. So they knew they weren't going to get that money back if they don't close on that deal. But it was an amazing deal because it's owner financing. The owner was willing to carry $2.7 million of the deal. The deal was $4.5 million. So all they had to do was raise $2.3 million.
Gotcha.
But unfortunately, they had done the due diligence, they had done all this work, but it never occurred to them to do a syndication to raise the fund. So when they brought this deal to us about 10 days before closing, they knew if they didn't close, they were going to lose the money. They were going to lose their deposit.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's how it came about. So what about the deal was attractive? Is it mainly that it was partially owner financed, or what about it to where you're like, oh, this is a no-brainer, we got to get it done?
The location.
Okay.
I mean, we knew first of all, the South Carolina market is quite a sexy market. Very rarely can you find like a 60, 70 unit. So it was a C-class property in a B-class area. Very nice area, private schools. They have Whole Foods as well as Trader Joe's. From this area, this zip code happens to be one of two zip codes in the whole United States that has both a Trader Joe's as well as a Whole Foods. So we knew, I mean, if you're thinking about Whole Foods and Trader, they want to be in great areas, right?
Right.
So that kind of, when we looked at the area, we knew there's the hospital, there's all the universities and so forth. So, and then we looked at the income. Right. And we looked at the average price of property in that area. So we knew it was a great area. After having done our research and coupling with the fact that it was owner financing, yes, it was like 2 thumbs up.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with the owner financing, was it just a matter of raising the rest of it, or was there other financing that you have to bring to the table, like some type of a bridge loan or agency debt? Well, what are the finances that you have to do?
No agency debt. We did not get a bridge loan. We actually did syndication. So we raised $2.3 million from our investors. We reached out, of course. The minute we found out we only had 10 days to go, we knew we had to put in some work. So we started reaching out to all of our investors, passive investors, and see who was willing to get on this deal. So we did a presentation, put down all the underwriting, and we brought it to the investors. By doing a presentation, now at that point, the investors knew, okay, this is a great deal. And they knew their IRR was going to be over 21%, right? Their rate of internal return for the year, they knew. So when they looked at the numbers, and we decided to do a 70-30 split with the investors, the reason was because we wanted their money. So 70% of the deal will be theirs, 30% will be for us, the GP. But it ended up working out for not only us, as well as the investors.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, are there other deals that you've worked on that were similar to this, or was it more so traditional of having agency debt, or was it more so creative? Like, what are some other deals that you're a part of?
Okay, so some of the other deals that I'm a part of, it's agency debt.
Okay.
So of course, I would love to have more owner financing. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? Like, especially when you know that they're giving you favorable terms. And if you're looking at when it's owner financing, they're more than happy to get a check quarterly, right?
Mhm.
They're not so concerned, and they give you favorable rate. Like even the last deal we talked about, a 5% rate for 10 years. I mean, that's amazing, right? Especially now if you're looking at inflation and you're looking at the average interest rate on these properties now, it's just ridiculous.
Mhm.
But all of the other ones that I've done, we did a 26 unit right here in Georgia. That is agency debt. I did a 180 unit in Jacksonville, Florida, agency debt. And these deals need even more care. The reason being is because now with the interest rate the way that it is, being so high, it's really making sure that the project, the assets are being managed properly, right? Because oftentimes when you get those management who come in and they make you great promises that they're going to take care of your assets and so forth, it's really your job to keep on them, making sure that they're doing their work, because they will overcharge you for any kind of simple work order.
Gotcha.
And sometimes you may not think about it. You're thinking, oh, it's only, an extra $300, but those adds up. Those expenses adds up, and they will chip away at your NOI. So it's
Gotcha.
very important that we keep an eye on how the assets are being managed, and we're visiting our properties at all time and making sure that we're getting the revenue, so then the clients, right? So then our investors can get their return.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And so with these projects, are you the ones that you're doing owner finance on, do they have to already have been paid off and that's the only way it works? Or how does it work to make sure that owner financing is even an option? Because and the reason why I ask is because I'm seeing a lot of deals to where they have their interest only payments and there's like a few years left on their term before the balloon payment is due. So how does owner financing work?
Well, okay, so with owner financing, you may bring the terms to the owner,
Mhm.
right? And you just let them know, okay, would you be willing to just get, okay, so the beauty of owner financing is the owner is more than happy to work with you.
Mhm.
The reason why is because oftentimes the reason why they'll even do an owner financing is to avoid paying taxes.
Mhm.
Because if you're thinking about it, if you sell a property for $4 million, how much taxes are you? Because right, like how much taxes are going to be paying on that? But instead of paying the tax, they're willing to delay that by just carry on that debt. They'll carry the debt. You just pay them just like you will normally do with your bank. Every month, you send them a check, they receive their check, they get paid. And sometimes the terms could be anywhere between 7 to 10 years. It depends on what the owner's terms are. The owner will let you know, okay, you need to pay off the whole thing in 5 years or 7 years. This last deal that we did, the 66 unit, we have 7 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to refinance or sell the property. But given that we've only been in that deal for a year and a half, things are going well. So we have another 6 years to go before we can even think, okay, are we going to refinance this deal and give all of the investors their cash back? Or are we just going to keep on it? But truth is, even if we were to give the investors their cash back, all of the capital back,
Mhm.
they still own part of the deal. So they still
Gotcha.
continue on getting a check from you. They still continue on earning a passive income. And the owner continue on earning its passive income until that property is sold.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So the original owner, did they have a loan on the property and the owner financing term that they gave just fits within the existing mortgage, or was it already paid off?
So this deal, the 66 unit, it was already paid off. So
Got it.
it
Okay.
was two gentlemen who owned that, they owned that asset, and things were not going so well with their relationship.
Got it.
One of them wanted to be out.
Mhm.
So in order for him to buy the other, his partner out, he ended up doing the owner financing.
Gotcha. Now, is it also possible to do, I guess the term would be called a wrap. So can you do that within that type of transaction as well?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So, wow. Okay. I'm learning. I'm taking notes right now. I'm getting some good information right now. All right. So now somebody that's getting started in the multifamily space and they want to know, okay, what are the first steps I should take? What would you tell them to get started?
Anyone who is, even if you are just curious, I will say attend one of those boot camps that are happening because that's cheap, right? Like everyone can come up with $200 to attend any of these 3 days, 4 days boot camp. Rod has one. I know Gino has one.
Mhm.
I think
I
Michael
think Jake and Gino or something like
Jake and
that.
Gino has
Yeah.
one. Michael Blake. They have all of these programs out there.
Mhm.
Attend one of them and get a feel for it. Get a feel for the type of individuals who are in that space, right?
Mhm.
And see if it's something that you want to learn. First, it's learning is so important, right? Personal development is so important. Maybe read a book about investing, which is it. Here's the thing: when it comes to financing, everyone should know how to run simple numbers. It doesn't even matter if you decide to invest in a deal. Every single one of us, and that's something that I think um, public school is really lacking in some way by not teaching us how to invest, how to be entrepreneurs, because finance is so important. You
Mhm.
have to know your numbers. You have to be able to manage your money in order for you to grow your wealth.
Gotcha.
So by getting out of your own way, and I mean these events can be intimidating because when you attend these events is highly these individuals, most of them for the most part, have probably been in that space for 10, 15, 20 years.
Got
So
it.
sometimes you're hearing these people and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm ever going to get there. But you will. You
Right.
absolutely will.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So now at this part of the podcast, this is when I ask 3 books that you would recommend for someone who's looking to get into entrepreneurship or real estate or just overall books that you feel like people should read. So what are 3 books that you would recommend people read?
Oh my goodness, there are so many books. Like, okay, so many books I can think of. Okay,
Mhm.
first and foremost, I think everyone should read The Psychology of Money.
Okay.
The reason, and I don't even remember the author's name because I'm reading that. This is the second time I'm reading it. Ooh, I have to remember the name, but
By Morgan Housel.
that's correct. The
Yep.
Psychology of Money.
Yep.
It's an amazing read because it gets you an idea. It helps you understand your relationship with money and even other individuals' relationship with money, right? And I would also recommend Happy Money by Ken
Happy
Honda.
Money. Okay.
Yes.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh God. Hold on one second. It's by Ken Honda. And it's an amazing read as well. He's Japanese, and it gives you a better understanding how the rest of the world view money and they view wealth and how they invest.
Gotcha.
An amazing book. And of course, I'm biased. I'm gonna say pick up my new book, Life Looks Different Now.
There you go. There you go. All right.
Because that one is really about mindset. Of course, a lot of people may end up learning a little bit more about me in that book. It
Mhm.
was recently published in April. I'm like,
Nice. Congrats.
listen,
Congrats.
pick up my book, okay? Like
There you go. There you go.
you can get it on Amazon. You can get it, Barnes and Noble online. It really helps you to learn the few principles that I personally have found have helped me over the years, right? Because I find a lot of us don't really understand what accountability is and the power of changing, and so I put this one together, and this book was published recently. I think it's definitely a great read. I'm
Gotcha.
biased.
Gotcha.
It's mine, right?
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Love it. So now we're gonna do a lightning round, and so we'll just go through and just hit these quickly. So it's just 3 questions just to see what you think and how you would react to it. So first question: if you were to invest in one city outside of any of the states that you are investing in currently, where would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Maybe Ohio?
Ohio. Okay, gotcha. Why Ohio?
Because I've been having quite a few meetings lately, and many people have mentioned that it's becoming a more of a booming market, and a lot more people are migrating there. So I may need to do a little bit of research on that area.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. There were 2. If you were to have one song on repeat for 7 weeks straight, what song would it be?
What song?
One song on repeat. It doesn't stop. You wake up in the morning, it's still playing. You go to sleep, it's still playing. You take it to shower, it's playing. You underwriting deals, it's playing. 7 weeks straight. One song.
One song. There's so many beautiful songs. Okay, I Believe in You by Celine Dion and El Divo.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right. And if you were to interview one person, dead or alive, and they had to have been alive within the last 300 years, who would it be and why?
Oh no, that question is unfair.
Because I like a lot of people. This is like, oh well, I'll interview Jesus. Okay, you know what? Let me give a time frame because I feel like it makes it more challenging and more interesting. So within the
Okay,
last
you
300
know
years.
what? That is so challenging. But to tell the truth, I think it will be Jim Rohn.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Why him?
because he's recordings have really propelled me into being that space that I'm in. When I after being diagnosed, when I knew I wanted a change in my life and I wanted um to really master my finances, master my own mindset,
Mhm.
I kind of like I believe that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And maybe at that point, when I was in that state of depression, and God really has pushed me towards that space, when I started listening to Him, my mindset started to change in regards to my own self as well as money. I started having a better relationship with money. So, Jim
Gotcha.
Rohn, for
Gotcha.
sure.
Gotcha. I love it. All right. And so to leave people with some words of wisdom, what are some words that you would give somebody that's either going through divorce or wants to get into real estate or just they're at a tough spot in their life right now and they're able to be in front of you right now? What would you tell them?
Oh, wow, you just put some really yeah, that's like God. Okay, I would definitely say if you're having a hard time right now and things haven't been going your way, to not live your life wounded, because things happen to us all. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe misfortune is only reserved for the poor. I don't believe that. I think all of us have our own share,
Right.
especially to those of us who come from third world countries. I will say that they claim to be third world countries. I don't
Right.
believe they are. But when you have a less favorable like background, we sometimes feel like defeated and we don't believe enough in ourselves. But really, don't live your life wounded. To own who you are,
Right.
because we
Gotcha.
have way more abilities than we believe that we do.
Got it. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, how can everybody follow you to get more of this wisdom and information that you gave on this podcast?
Well, I can be found on Instagram, Slandy Noel, at Slandy Noel. I can be found on TikTok, Slandy99 on TikTok. They can visit my website, slundynoel.com or astrongeryoumovement.com.
Is stronger what?
A Stronger You
Okay.
Movement.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
truly believe a stronger you is a better you. When you're
Gotcha.
stronger emotionally, physically, spiritually, you become a better you. And of course, you can find me on Facebook. People can follow me, Slandy Noel, on Facebook.
Awesome. Good deal. Hey, Slendy. Thank you so much. And I greatly appreciate you doing this episode. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Your First Steps podcast. Let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a review. And don't forget to subscribe.